Goedenavond, dames en heren. Welkom bij mijn presentatie. That's as far as I'm going to go with Dutch, so if you don't mind, I'll carry on in with English, and thank you for letting me speak in English as well today. Okay, presentation on Weekend of Science. We've been doing lots of science today and yesterday, the day before. Let me just introduce myself. I'm Robin Woods, and I'm the Senior Consultant with Robin Worldwide. The last 28 years I've been travelling around the world designing metro maps and researching. I've designed 114, of which I've actually visited 91. It's been a great job to do. I've had a lot of fun doing it. I was born in London and I lived in Uxbridge, and this is me at 2.5 years old. I've actually got a little leaflet here, so I'm already starting to plan journeys. One of the things I used to do was escape and go to the local metro station, and my mother had to find me there on several occasions. Slap round the head. Okay, what is wayfinding? Well, it's pretty much everything we do in our daily lives, isn't it? From the moment we're born to the moment we die. Everything from getting from the bedroom to the bathroom, from the bathroom to the kitchen to the front door and so forth. We're out. We're wayfinding everything, everywhere. Yeah, using that particular muscle of ours, which we'll see later on. Okay, what other areas of life might we find wayfinding? Where do we need to use wayfinding techniques? Aviation, rail, bus. What else? Anyone got any other ideas? Shopping. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, finding the aisles and so forth, yeah, yeah.
Go to a football match.
Football match, finding your seats and so forth, yeah, yeah. Anyone else? Any other ideas? Loads of activities that you need to do wayfinding. Okay, well, this, if you have the word wayfinding, you might think of this as a traditional idea of what wayfinding might involve. But at some point in the future, we'll be finding our way, possibly, around the stars. Maybe? Who knows? But we take wayfinding for granted, more often than not. It's just there, it's just we're using it all the time, but we don't realise it. How might you find your way around this environment? Or what about this environment? How might you find your way around there? Different techniques, different things, different information you might need? Has to be. What about navigating the frozen Canadian north? What might you do there if you're all you can see is just snow and ice? What might you do? Well, the Inuits use this format, and it actually looks like a human. That's the idea. These are placed around various parts of Canada. If you come across one, don't disrupt it, because it is actually regarded as sacred. Good reason, of course, because it is actually wayfinding. That's what they use. Basic human needs, 3-3-3. 3 minutes for air. Without air, after 3 minutes, dead. 3 hours without shelter, surprisingly. 3 days without water. 3 weeks without food. But how long can you survive without one of these? 3 seconds? Yeah? Not long? Yeah. Seems like it, yes. Okay, but if we go back 15,000 odd years, our ancestors were already designing maps on stone. Yeah. They had to do that. Researchers from Zaragoza University have been analysing these stones that they've found in a cave in the northern part of Spain, and it's really interesting what they've done there. Okay, well, this is the location, Arraiz Orquin. That's the part of Spain that they found these particular stones. And if you look carefully, you can see they're starting to decipher what these various inscriptions mean. It's an incredible amount of work that they've done there. Been peer reviewed. We'll see in more detail on some of the other sides there, but these are the stones that they found there. 13,600 BCE, before Common Era as it's known now. Patricia Utrilla is the lead there on the researching. Now we'll zoom in a bit further. You can see what they've done is various layers. So they've interpreted each of these etchings and by using colour to find out what it might mean. So here is one of the animals that they would find. That was an ibex. So they would find this animal in this particular area. And on the other side of the stone, various other, well, there's a deer there as well. More importantly, of course, they wanted to find water. So where the rivers are in this particular area. Bearing in mind 15,000 years ago. And even then, at that stage, they were getting orientation right. Sometimes map designers of today can't even get orientation right. But 15,000 years ago, they were concerned with orientation. Now I find that amazing, because that's clear thinking from the past. Okay, so here we are. This is the local area, which is represented on these stones. Most important thing, of course, is food, water, shelter, and where your enemies might be. Ooh. Right, this part of the brain, very important. Limbic, part of the limbic system. Hippocampus. We use that for our wayfinding all the time. The amygdala. Okay, well, yeah, you guys, I mean, you know all about the hippocampus and the amygdala, don't you?
We're trying.
You're trying, yeah? Well, you're doing a lot of studying anyway, so that's the good thing. The thing is, stress disrupts these parts of our brain. Normal stress response with the amygdala, what does it do? Okay, it detects danger. Once that's detected, it starts shutting down the prefrontal cortex. And that is to stop overthinking, because it needs to deal with the threat. Flight or response, or flight or fight response. Once that's dealt with, the amygdala resets to baseline levels. But chronic stress, something actually which is prevalent today in modern society. With that, the amygdala is bombarded with perceived low-level threats all the time. So we have things like 24-hour news. There's always social media, for example. This like me, for example. We're connected all the time. All of that has an effect. On the hippocampus, it becomes smaller. And that's our vital part of our brain, or one of the vital parts. It's pro-inflammatory, so it then has an effect on our heart, the other parts of our brain, our immune system, and we risk getting type 2 diabetes and even cancer. It disrupts our blood lipids and our blood fats. The result of that, chronic stress, very, very bad for us. Okay, so this is it, modern day stimulus, the amygdala. There we are. All of this stuff coming at us all the time. We're not shutting down. Our ancestors 15,000 years ago never had to deal with social media, 24-hour news. They had threats, of course, but they were much more in tune with their environment. It was much safer for their own health. Now, the London taxi driver. Okay. A groundbreaking study in the year 2000, they studied black cab taxi drivers' brains. Now, many of you might not know, but in order to have a license to drive a black cab, you have to do what's known as the knowledge. It's about 2 to 4 years to learn. Basically, 320 routes, 25,000 streets, and 20,000 landmarks and places of interest. They have to remember the location, the names, and all of that sort of thing. That's an extraordinary amount of spatial information. What they found was, they did a study, and they found that those that passed the test, their brains, their hippocampus, was 20% greater in size than those who failed the test. So it tells us something about spatial awareness. What happens when we have more spatial awareness? When we're out there, our hippocampus grows. They also did a study with our little furry friends here who bury their food because they have to remember where the food is. And they also found that the hippocampus in these animals was larger than other animals. This is all of these neuroconnections. Great stuff. We need to have more and more neuroconnections. It's good for our health, it's good for our brains. Okay, now if you have the advantage of having a window seat on an aircraft, you might find these strange looking signs as you go around the runways and the taxiways. Well, it's wayfinding for pilots and ground staff. Here is a terminal chart of Schiphol, and if we zoom in here, you can see A8 and A9, which is what we saw earlier on the other side. So all of that information is actually on a chart. Pilots obviously have to find their way to and from the terminals, and from the terminals to the runways, and from the runways and so forth. All of these staff members, baggage handlers, catering, engineering, aircraft refueler, aircraft pushback, they all need to know where to navigate around the airport. It's essential, it's safety. This is interesting. This system here, the relatively new system, that can guide an aircraft onto stand within 10 centimetres of accuracy. That's pretty accurate. This little thing, they're trying this. This is actually a pushback tug. It's a remote controlled pushback tug, and that's what, when you hear the bump and the pushing back, that's this thing taking the aircraft off the stand. They of course need to know where they're going. This is my favourite chart because here there's the A5 motorway runs parallel with this particular runway. So it's not for departing aircraft, this information, but obviously for landing aircraft, better make sure your lights and your heading's on the right way. And this is actually a photograph I took when I was leaving Amsterdam back in April. You can see runway 36 here and the A5 there. So yeah, it's quite, always get a window seat. It's much better to travel with a window seat. Okay, so now air crew have to navigate after taking off. They need to navigate from point to point. Currently, what they use are these ground-based beacons. So they fly between ground-based beacons. It's radio controlled at the moment. Later on it's going to be GPS. So we have all these wonderful satellites flying around, and they'll be able to just take shorter routes rather than having to take these kind of strange routes like this. It's old technology, but it's going to be improved. Right, well, another form of navigation. Look at this lot. All these boats and ships. The Rhine you can see here. Incredible, isn't it? They all need to know where they're going. They need to know, you know, you set off from one place, your aim is a dock somewhere, better find it, and you need to avoid a wind farm. Very important to Dutch railways, of course, because most of your electricity is supplied by wind farms, isn't it? And as we get nearer to the port, we can see that each of these are docking somewhere. They need to find their own berth. That's a photo I took as I was coming in this time. This is Westport, but you know, every individual area has got its docking. They need to find out where they're going. Now, if you're planning a journey on public transport, what information might you need? It depends on the size and the size of the city. The type of transport, for example, you might need various different types of transport, buses, trams, metro, for example. Or if you go to my famous and favourite city, Venice, all you can do is walk or take the water bus. Even the post is delivered by water bus in Venice, and other goods here. I just put this in because I quite like it. When I'm doing my research, I often come across interesting scenes, and I kind of like this one because these two guys are taking a photo of the cat here. He hasn't got a camera, and so what he does there is says boo to the cat. Cat's not interested. Okay, so information. When we're planning transport, when we're using public transport, we need information at every step of the way. It's not just one piece of information. We're going to have several pieces of information in order for us to make these journeys. From the very beginning, learning about what kind of transport it is and what kind of information we need. Starting the journey, entering the system, ticketing, waiting, boarding, riding, arriving, all of these, every step of the way. And our question in our minds is, where am I? Where am I? Where am I? All the time. Even though it might not be consciously we're thinking about it, we're still demanding that sort of information. We were talking the other day, I think it's 7 pieces of information we can remember in our immediate memory. Is that right? Roughly? Yeah, it's about seven bits of information. So it's no good having one lot of information at the beginning and then nothing in between. You do need these steps. You need each part of it having information. Okay, so a typical tram board. This is Sophia. I chose Sophia because it's in Cyrillic, and I have no idea. I don't read Cyrillic, but great example. The name of the stop, actually the number of the stop as well. So each individual platform is numbered. The destination of the services that are served here, and the route number. That's the bare minimum you need for navigating on trams on a surface system. Anything less than that, you can't get around. But if you've got that and a map to go with it, dead easy. Well, so just to prove that that's the case, Route 14, okay, and then Route 14 is on there. There's a typical tram stop, and underneath is the map. You can see destination Route 14. So even if you don't read Cyrillic, you can get a pattern, you can get that idea. So if your hotel is somewhere on there and you're travelling around, you know, you look at that, you know, look at that, there's the platform, job done. Now, have you noticed people looking at maps on walls? People are drawn to maps on walls, aren't they? Have you found yourself looking at maps on walls, yeah? Various places. Paris do it very well. Again, they have lots of maps of different types. So we have local maps, we have the local area map, we have the street map, we have the metro map, whatever it is. A lady here in Singapore looking at the map. Maps are so important. 2 people there looking at the street map in Singapore. This is interesting. Have you ever found yourself also pointing and touching maps? Is it something you do? Yeah. It's entirely natural. It's very human to do so. It's almost like, here I am. This is it. I'm here. I'm confirming that I'm actually here. There we are. Different types of pointing, but still people pointing. The thing is, if you point too much, you end up with a holy map. And here's one I found in London. Not protected. No, they forgot to put some glass over it. So, but you can see the result of too much pointing. I love that one. Yeah. Now, what happens when wayfinding goes wrong? I've seen a lot of it on my travels. This is in Clapham Junction. Is a major station in London. It's 2,000 trains pass through this station every day. It's Europe's busiest station, not by passenger numbers, but by trains. Which platform would you say it's for Victoria? Anyone take a guess? This is the crazy situation, what they've done here. This is the reverse, so they've actually just turned it round. Instead of taking care about where they put this, it is actually platform 12 for Victoria. But just because it's on the right-hand side, they wanted on this one, they wanted to put it on the right-hand side on the reverse, and they just stuck that name there. So you think it's platform 11. If you come from one direction, it's platform 11. If you come from the other direction, it's platform 12. It's always platform 12. And the same crazy thing here. What about platform 13 and 14, which is for Victoria and Gatwick? This is serious because going the wrong way, you miss your flights, and you end up going to Victoria instead of Gatwick Airport. So it's, you know, big problems there. How about this one? I couldn't quite make out this when I first did the research in Florence. It's just a route letters, no destination. But someone in the authority there found that this would be suitable enough to use for navigating in Florence. And yet, with the newer buses, you can see the route letter and the destination, and on each of the signs, you actually have here, in this case, Piazza Beccaria and Piave. So you know, they have the information, they just didn't bother with the first one. I just included this again because I quite like this, you know, travelling around. This lovely little pop-up shop in the middle of Florence, Alimentari, and the sunset I had there. That's very fortunate. Now then, this is more nonsense. This is what I came across in Spain on the Spanish metro. Someone decided to put the information boards at that height. Why would you do? You'd have to have a long neck, wouldn't you, like a giraffe? But yeah, it's there. This is some more wayfinding silliness that I found in Gatwick. See a little bit there. What's going wrong here then? No, they've decided to say that the train's this way and then tickets this way, but then someone has stuck this sign in there saying this way, keeping left. So what do? Which way do you go? How about that one? Total confusion. Gatwick's a busy airport, busy station, and people are just milling all over the place getting... But obviously these are the first, and then someone decided, oh no, we don't want people going that way, we want them all to go that way, but still keeping that there. Right, now, is there an over-reliance on technology? Have you found yourself doing that? What about this one? Maybe there is too much, yeah? Well, there is the problem with just blindly following a sat-nav. It can get you into all sorts of trouble. And in the UK, we have a lot of low bridges. I don't think there's so many here in Holland, but in Netherlands. But in the UK, we have lots of low bridges. And we have, how shall I put this? Drivers who don't pay attention to what they've got behind them and what's in front of them. And the result is this. Yeah. And this happens a lot in the UK. I can play a video if you'd like, a short video. Would you like to see a short video? Yeah? We'll see if the technology works. This is this is actually in the States. Let's see if I can get a bigger screen. Here we go. There's a particular bridge. This is interesting. I'll just pause this in a moment. You'll see. Yeah. Oh, there was a sign there that said 10 foot, like the height. So what they needed to do was get into the middle lane. This bridge in America gets hit on average once a month. And the guy here, he owns this particular website, he decided to put a video camera on his office to just video every time the bridge got struck. And yeah, so once a month, that's been happening. This is, you know, it's blindly following satellite navigation without paying attention to what's going on. The majority of these are actually hire trucks. So they're people that are not conversant, not usual, yeah, don't realise the height. But even so, before this road, there's a sign which says, hire trucks, turn right here. And no one pays attention to it. It's actually, I mean, we could watch this all day long. There is just a couple more I want to show you because there's a... Maybe the other thing that we need to be educated about here is if we are following a truck which is out of gauge, just keep well behind it because you might come off badly, yeah? Again, this is not well signed here. It doesn't say low bridge so much, but even so, it's not on the mapping. People aren't following what they should be doing. And there's one extra. I'll just show you this. some of them are actually. There's a guy walking across here. Look. It's horrible, you know. Yeah, this is serious. Yeah, this is, you know. Yeah, and this is the last one. We'll finish with this one. Look at that. That's crazy, isn't it? We could watch this all day long, but I think we'll finish there. The point being, anyway, that if you're just blindly following sat-nav and nothing else, then this sort of thing happens. In the UK, it has consequences. 5 railway bridges, on average, are struck every day. That causes, on average, 2-hour delay to passengers and £23 million per annum. That's the cost of not doing the job right. There is another cost, and that is if you don't follow a planned route. What if you don't follow a planned route? Well, we probably remember this. Yeah, they planned the route, but then for whatever reason, and there is some say that he drove nearer to the coast away to his girlfriend, but that's we can't quote. Yeah, we can't quote on that. But that's, you know, people lost their lives in this because he didn't follow a planned route. Okay, so we've looked at various different types of wayfinding. Is there anything that you can think of through what we've seen so far that might be a common thread? Anything? A common thread?
It's garbage in, it's garbage out.
Well, that's one. That's a good one, yeah. Well, I think wayfinding can be summed up largely by labels. If you look, when you look down to the sort of finer thing, it's all about labels. It's all about having labels for platforms, labels for on the side of the trains, the consistency. Well, interestingly, this is a British company that have come up with this idea, this what 3 words. They have divided the whole surface of the globe into 3 metre by 3 metre squares and given each of those 3 metre by 3 metre squares 3 words. So you can now navigate from anywhere on the planet to another place on the planet using just 3 words. And actually this is where we are now. We're in this, and we can do a screen. That was actually that corner, because I planned it last night because I thought I was going to be in that corner over there. That's literally the 3 metre by 3 metre section. It's great as well because quite often if you're looking for some friends, you might say, well, I'm on the corner here or the corner there and it's this and that. Actually, all you need to do is just give these 3 words, which in our case is caravan.rattled.gains. That's that corner over there. All over the world. Right. Now, I often see interesting signs, and in Pune I came across this one. So they've got very intelligent dogs in Pune who can read and ring doorbells. But in England we have also intelligent dogs, and this was at a pub. Great, isn't it? I mean, this is the English. You can't write English. This is, but I quite like. It's a nice pub actually, as well. I come across other signs. So here's some examples. This was in San Diego. Normally you just say, "Do not lean out of the window," for example. But no, it's any body part is not allowed outside the window. And well, I don't know. Perhaps you can speak German here, but I love the graphic here. This soaring of the seats. In Taipei, I came across this because, yeah, well, the locals do like to carry their birds. They're very fond of birds, and they do like to carry their birds. And at the time, of course, they had this avian flu, so they wanted to stop the spread of avian flu, and that's the reason why that's there. That's on the door as you get into the actual door. And in Sydney, they are really specific. You can't smoke anything at all, not even a rolled up newspaper. Well, okay, so let's keep navigating simple. That's the idea, isn't it? quite often we add things that are not necessary, and it's really important to just make wayfinding, navigating, signage simple. Takeaways. What have we learned from this? Wayfinding or navigation affects our daily lives. Well, we know from the moment we get up in the morning to when we go to bed. Keeping a healthy hippocampus, because we need that a lot. Keeping a healthy amygdala. So small amygdala, big hippocampus, that's what you're after. And when you're doing wayfinding projects, pay attention. Keep wayfinding simple. Above all, have fun. And this was some great advice I got in Novotel in Vienna. We were at a conference, a UITP conference, and I thought, well, yeah, that's pretty good advice. I'll stick with that. Thank you very much. Well, hopefully there was something there that was of interest, something unusual.
How do you consider the station here?
It's interesting. You
landed at Schiphol, went to Hoofddorp, and now you're here. So.
Yeah, I've got used to wayfinding in the Netherlands, and actually it works very well. The app here is one of the best I've seen. I have to say there's a lot of information on Dutch Railways apps, or app. Carriages, delays, platform numbers. That's, it's really important information. Delays, of course, if there are delays. But knowing which platform is going to come into and which your connecting train. We don't publish this information in the UK. It's not secret, but what they don't want is people going to the platform too early, and so they don't publish this sort of information. So it's good here in the Netherlands. Yeah, I really like it. Yeah, one of the best, if not the best, in fact. Yeah. Well, the other thing I like as well on the railways is that they have this LCD sign, which gives information, but it also gives places to visit, examples of so I think it's relatively new. Is that, Mark? These
big ones.
No, just so within the train itself. Yeah.
And inside.
Yeah, and I beg you not to ask for them to show 24-hour news, because we've got to take care of our amygdala. It's very important. It's it's a healthy thing not to be wired up to this stuff. And so if you can campaign or make sure that Dutch Railways continue to show places to visit, and more and more of that in each of the trains, that'll be good, because that's healthy. And it also encourages you and visitors to travel around the country itself, because it's a beautiful country to visit. So there's lots of places to see, nice bars and pubs, nice cafes.
Advice for us how to make the navigation in this station better?
I think the Centrum and the Jaarbergsplein probably need to be bigger, because that's one of the things that seem to be difficulty. I certainly noticed that myself anyway, and apparently it is one of the things that gets complained about. So I'd maybe make one end of the station different from the other end, because of course if you look at the roof and the floor, it's all very similar. So maybe a distinction, perhaps some artwork or something like that. That might be nicer. Yeah, just to make it different. I would comment on other things, but I would do that off camera, if I may. Yeah.
Yesterday we both visited the big cycle garage.
Yes, yeah.
Saw some interesting things. Can you name a few things which might be done better?
Yeah, it was interesting because when you're actually coming into the garage itself, so you've got the cycle lanes going into the garage. It's on 3 levels. And what information do you need? You're going to park your bike. That's what you're going to do. So there's an action you're going to take there, park your bike. You need a space, 24,000, eventually I believe, 24,000, yeah, that's, 12, is it? Yes. 12 currently?
It's now half.
It's now half.
6
Okay, so 12, hey, I mean even 12,000 is a lot, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, so.
That's still too small, I agree, but 12.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so but when you're coming into the garage itself, you actually need straight away to know which level has got spaces left, because you need that. That's the first piece of information. And then the second piece of information is if you're a season ticket holder, apparently you can only use one level. So you need to know whether that is for season ticket holders only, because anyone else has to go to the higher level or the lower level. And then as you're navigating through and you can see all the various rows, you need to see quickly which section of the rows has got space. And what's happened at the moment, as you come along, the signs are just actually on the bulkhead, and they're facing flat towards just another row. They either need to be offset, or probably better still, just have an indicator, just a light, green light or red light or orange light above the row, and people can just go straight to that. People are in a rush, aren't they? They just want to go there, park the bike and go. Yeah. And I think that's the thing about wayfinding. It's not actually that difficult. Some of us make it, some of us in wayfinding practitioners actually make it more complex than it needs be. That example in Clapham Junction, I mean, needless, completely needless. In fact, the original signage worked, and then they decided to change it and make it unwork. It's like, well, why do that? Crazy, yeah. So wayfinding is ultimately it's simple. But the great thing is, what you guys are doing is you're scientifically testing various things. So the use of graphics, colours, styles, positions, all of that sort of thing, all of those can be scientifically tested to whether they work or not. And I think we as practitioners in wayfinding, we need to work with scientists probably more often and get that insight. Yeah. And it's going to change over time as we get new ideas, as we develop our urban landscapes. We need to have different ideas. We'll have different requirements, won't we, as we get older. That's another thing, yes. If you noticed in all of those, where the positions of the maps, where people were looking at the maps, one thing that was wrong with all of that is no one in a wheelchair could see any of them. It was all this level. You've got a big map like this, okay, so it's positioned here. Well, if you're in a wheelchair, so it's not provided for disabled people. Maybe that's something else. Sound, you can use sound as well. They are trialling, I believe in London, they're trialling for blind people. There's an app, and is it France? Is it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Paris, right? So you wear a hearing system, and then it guides you through the passageways.
Yeah.
Do you know if how long the trial has been going on?
Well, yeah, they started last year.
Okay.
The challenge is indoor location. So,
Yeah.
Your GPS doesn't work indoor here.
Yeah.
So they are working with indoor navigation system of Apple, but that's difficult to operate because it's new, and the indoor navigation is based on radio signals of the Wi-Fi networks everywhere. So it's using profiling of Wi-Fi. But it's inaccurate, and if you guide blind people on this, you need to be sure who the person is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's still evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's maybe a good use of technology. That's where we can use it in a good way.
I hear enough challenges. I think we can talk about this for hours.
There's loads of challenges. Yes.
Don't have time.
Yeah.
Robin, thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
this presentation.
Well,
Very
thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
insightful. Thank you for answering the questions.
Pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you very much.